Welcome to Chewer, the Left Side Brain podcast. I'm Ollie Jewiden, 1/4 of Left Side Brain, and with me once again are Gareth Jones,
Hi.
Rich Sadler,
Good evening, gentlemen.
and Ryan Brooks.
Hello.
Gents, we made it to episode 2.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't feel real.
It's all a dream.
Can I apologise? The gap before I said hi there. I was forgetting that this was an audio podcast, and I was concentrating on doing a salute to camera the same way that Lionel Blair used to do on Give Us a Clue.
It's this high quality content that's taken us to episode 2, isn't it?
I heartily enjoyed episode 1, though.
Well, it was a raging success, right?
Yeah. What do we get to in the Apple Music charts?
158.
158th.
I'm on.
What, out of all the podcasts in the world?
UK produced music podcast that week. Yeah.
In like a bullet.
Top 160.
Yeah, so if we can top that with episode 2, then that'll be really something.
Lion.
Well, yeah, should we do a second episode then?
Let's do this.
Part of the reason we're here is all the lovely feedback we had on episode 1. So thank you everyone for that.
Have we got a mailbag? I'm quite excited by that.
We have had correspondence. That's been one of the joyous parts of it, right? I thought this was going to be an excuse just to talk to you knobheads. But my goodness, loads of texts, loads of emails, surprising amount of correspondence from old and new friends. It's been lovely.
Yep, some people actually even took time to submit their own top opening tracks on debut albums. So I suggest we have a quick look at those, a couple of those now.
Do that.
So if you're ready, first, we've got a list from Tom Cockerell, who it should be said is a good friend of ours, and also one of the leading Bon Jovi advocates in Southwest England.
Where this is going.
So I'm going to go through his list, but you'll see there's, and I don't want to shame Tom in front of the millions of listeners, but you'll see what I was saying. Anyway, I'll read through his list and see what you think of this. So at number 5 in Tom's list is a song called Crystal Carrington by Camp Low, off their debut Uptown Saturday Night. Anyone?
No.
Nope.
He's made that up.
At number 4, he's chosen a song called Okay, It's All Right With Me by Eric Hutchinson. However, this is actually the opening track on Eric Hutchinson's 3rd album, not his debut. So,
doesn't count.
Yeah. At number 3 is a song called Misfit by Curiosity Killed the Cat.
Hey, brilliant.
Off their debut album, Keep Your Distance.
An absolute banger.
At number 2, he's gone for Same Old Song and Dance by Aerosmith. That's also not on their debut album. It's on their 2nd album.
Isn't that the rules?
Tom.
Has he made this admission that he's going for these later albums, or is this you doing your research?
This is me doing my research. And anyone want to guess what his number 1 is?
Yeah, Runaway by Bon Jovi.
Correct, of course.
No way it wasn't going to be her.
No, absolutely.
Not a
Thanks,
classic,
Tom.
I've got to be honest. He did mention to me that was his number 1. And I did say that if Lay Your Hands on Me had been the opening track off the first Bon Jovi album, that might have been in my top 5.
Fair enough. We also had a list from Turbo Geek via YouTube.
Oh, Mike.
Yeah, long time fan of Gas Giants, closing track on their 2nd album.
Keeps it quiet though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't like to shout about it. He's actually provided a top 7 in no particular order. So I'll just read out the list and you see what you think of these. He's got Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails.
Yep.
Quality.
Can't argue with that.
Live Wire by Motley Crue.
Don't know it.
You wouldn't like it.
Dog Days Are Over, Florence and the Machine.
Don't know it.
Foxy Lady, Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Is that the
Tough to
first?
argue with that.
Is that their debut?
Yeah.
Jeez, that's a strong start. Strong start, isn't it?
That's good.
Talk about statement of intent. Good grief.
Yeah.
Just Ants by Lady Gaga.
Oh, don't know. Not time for Gaga, though.
Paper Cut by Linkin Park.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure I know it. We've listened to a lot of Linkin Park recently, and yeah, we should cover that sometime as well, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell them apart sometimes in my head, but Linkin Park, tough to argue.
Yep.
And finally, Davidian by Machine Head.
Correct.
Well, there we are.
We know about that one. And we've had various other messages, ideas for future discussion topics, general agreement about Davidian. We've had quite a few nods in that direction. And somewhat inevitably, we've had a couple of corrections come our way, haven't we? So,
Yeah.
Rich, you've had a correction come your way.
Yes,
So
I've had a missive from Shepton's biggest pedant, Ben Green. No, I'm kidding. Love Ben, formative, original Blue Neck member, and all round lovely guy. He, of course, took me to task on the fact that I got Teenage Fan Club's debut album on.
Oh, mate.
So I feel very, very bad about that, obviously.
So
My
you
indie
should.
credentials are in the bin. So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, worth giving Ben a shout out as well for having done all the LSB artwork.
absolutely, all three albums and the best of,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
various flyers and T-shirts and all sorts over
high
the
grade
years.
artist. Did
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
Super Goliath artwork as well, the Me&G project.
And
Absolute hero.
he also did the artwork for the Curb Dog live CD that they did 10 or so years
Oh,
ago.
really?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh,
Cool,
You're
Ben.
welcome, Ben.
G, you've also got an error to correct.
Yes, I've got to correct as much fuss as I was making about Novocaine and how their singer was one of my two favourite singers that I would want to be able to sing like. I got his name wrong, which is still really reflecting that well on me. I said Steve Jones, I think, but it's Steve Evans. And my only defence on this is that much as I love Novocaine, and as much as I've spent time trying to find out as much as I can about them on the internet over the years, there's almost nothing about them. Every now and again, I type in what happened to him, what's he up to these days? Nothing. Absolutely no idea. In fact, one of the few things that I know about him is a fact gleaned from one of the songs on their best album, which is that once upon a time in 1976, he saw a spaceship flying right over the top of Simon Ring's house. And I don't even know who Simon Ring is. So I mean, that's literally all I've got on him.
Yep.
Apologies to Steve Evans. Amazing singer.
I've got one point of order as well I'd like to address from the first episodes. And I mentioned how much our house loves Arctic Monkeys and referred to my middle son as my middle son rather than mention him by name. So just let's take him and say big ups to Joshy.
Was he not happy with that?
Yeah, I've got words. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, please keep the messages coming in, even if they are just to tell us what we got wrong. We have loved hearing from you. Lots of big grins on faces.
Yeah.
You can email leftsidebrainband@gmail.com or message us via Instagram or Facebook or on the YouTube. You can comment on the next episode when it goes out, and we'll go through some on the next episode. Okay, time to find out what we've been up to recently.
You're just too good to turn down.
Right, so what have we been up to since we recorded episode 1? Start with, all three of you have been to see Deftones over the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
you went first. Do you want to
Yeah,
start?
not all together. We did have tickets together. I messed up the dates, couldn't go with these boys to Cardiff, and then thought, okay, I'm not going. And then the closer it got, the more I realised I've got to get to a different date. So I drove myself on my own to the Birmingham date the week before and had a superb time. It was so good. They were so good. I don't know what you boys thought, but they put on such a show. Chino seemed in such great form. I thought it was.
Yeah.
There were songs I wish they'd played. They've been around 30 odd years, but there was I was chuffed with how they performed that night. What did you boys?
Well, I thought it was completely joyous. We got down pretty close, didn't we? Reasonably close to the stage, or at least it felt like it. So we had a full-on blast of the sound, and you could just see how much joy there was. I thought. I mean, like you mentioned, Chino. He was having the most fun in the entire room. I would say, just absolutely loving it. And I thought they sounded great. The song choices were awesome. Yeah, just the life to him. There were moments where I thought, oh, Chino can't quite do Chino, like the acrobatics of the voice. But the more it went on, I thought he totally can. He was just absolutely fucking nailing it, despite throwing himself around. And just listening to the sound of the thing, the guitar tone was so ripping, because you kind of associate a lot of it coming from the bass, but it was so good, even though it wasn't Steph on guitar. And of course, Abe was just absolutely smashing it on drums.
Yeah, and you know what? I know you haven't spoken yet, G, but like bringing up Abe, it was really clear. They were super tight, but they were also quite wild. Like considering what a high sheen, big screen show it was, it clearly wasn't a click. It was like he was speeding up and slowing down, letting it breathe and stuff. It
Oh,
was,
that's good to hear.
yeah.
I guess
It
the,
was,
the visuals behind were just swirly. They weren't
yes,
like
exactly. It wasn't
regimented, were
like
they?
detonating on certain
Yeah.
bits and stuff. Oh, it was wicked.
I'm not sure I necessarily had the same experience. I've been trying to sort of straighten it in my head how I felt about it. It was great. They were great. First things first. It was fascinating more than it was thrilling. It was like they played perfectly. Everyone loved it. Hour and a half, all that, fantastic. He sang amazing. Everyone's been saying that he's singing the best of his career, and he's finally started warming up or something. I don't know, but somehow he's on top form, and he was brilliant. I was mostly taken by how two things, I guess. Firstly, these days we often all get to see these sort of legacy acts or whatever, right? Bands who we've loved since but way back when, and become really used to a sea of bald heads in the crowd. And it was not that. Like where we were standing, literally in front of us was like half a dozen teen goth girls.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you look around and it's like, oh, there's a group over there and over there and more over there and more over there. It was like they've clearly crossed over, as everyone has said they have, into all of these things, and fair play to them. Amazing. What an amazing thing. And it felt a bit like the set list probably reflected that. And whilst
new album heavy, yeah,
I prefer the heavier sort of side of stuff, but I have attended to and enjoyed all of their albums throughout the career, apart from that one with the flamingos on it. And it's not like
back into that is still really good.
I need to go back and maybe pick through. There was a few songs that really just annoyed me on that record. Yeah, but it's not like I've let them go and not been paying attention. I listened to all their records, all that sort of stuff. But it felt like they were really heavily leaning into lots of the sort of dreamy mid to late career stuff. And the songs that I was finding myself wishing they'd play, like that they'd put something out, an album track off of Around the Fur or something. And I realized that maybe they weren't playing for me. I'm not the target audience for that. They have the pleasure now, or the luxury of having this amazing spread of audience.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I'm not the target audience for that now. So I loved seeing them. I enjoyed it, but I didn't have that connection of like, oh shit, they're playing for me, because they weren't. And more power to them for not having to do so.
I had the opposite. I think I spent some time just kind of being there. It's like, the older I've got, the more I've realized going to see a band isn't just about like, oh my God, they're in front of me, they're playing. It's like, I'm with all my people that also love this.
Yeah,
has become a much more powerful thing for me. And I spent some time just kind of outside the kind of actual arena, but just kind of looking around. I was like, wow, these are the Deftones people. They've forever been my top three bands. These are my people now. And I am not in the sweet spot of the demographic. I am on the fringes of it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
But as we got later and later in the set, I was like, I guess there won't be anything off Adrenaline.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It'd be too much to ask. With the demographic the way it is, and that being literally more than 30 years ago. Fair enough. And then they played 7 Words last, and it went more wild than it had all night.
Yeah.
But you could tell the songs that were really bringing that crowd, because there were like 4 or 5 songs where everybody got their phones up. So there's a couple of them, like songs that I don't believe they used to ever really play live before, like Cherry Waves.
Yeah.
Great. Wonderful to see one of our favorite bands.
Yeah.
Excellent. Other than that, what else has been going on? Anything you want to tell us about?
I've got 2 records I was going to mention that have pushed my buttons this week. So first one is Blood Command. Now, I've absolutely loved the last 2 Blood Command records, particularly Praise Armageddon. But the last 2 are with their kind of latest singer, and I've never gone back to the band with the previous singer. I know Blood Command are like a refusedy, Bronxy thing that's kind of, that's taken some kind of a dose of pop medicine, and I've got like an angry Cyndi Lauper fronting them. But it just turns out that the singer that I had before she's just as badass, and the record is just as good. So Blood Command, Cult Drugs.
I think
really,
I've listened to and loved Blood Command. I think, haven't I?
Yes,
talked about it.
Praise Armageddon. I said to you, and you loved that too. But
I mixed them up in my head Is it Blood Incantation and
Blood
Command?
Incantation, more progressive death metal thing.
Yeah, and that was
excellent.
I didn't enjoy, but Blood Command was wicked.
Yes, yeah. It turns out the album before with the different singer turns out also excellent.
Nice.
You said there was another?
I can go again, unless you want to go next, G.
Oh, I've definitely got one I'm excited to share. So the record I've been listening to most probably in the last like 3 weeks, maybe since I it appeared on my feed in YouTube, is a band called Angine de Poitrine.
Yeah, those guys.
And I have just like, I can't stop listening to it. I'll try and describe it. It's not going to do it any justice though. So if you look up ANGINEDEPOITRINE, it's two blokes dressed in preposterous, massive costumes that they've clearly made themselves, covered in polka dots. And one of them is playing the drums, and the other one is playing a double neck guitar, which is part guitar and part bass. And it's both for the guitar and the bass are what are called microtonal fretboards on them, which means they've got all the frets for all the normal notes and some extra notes in between the normal notes. So all the stuff sounds amazingly out of tune, but not out of tune and amazing. And he's playing with a bunch of loop pedals. So he's layering up layers of bass and guitar and all these things, playing all these crazy things. And the sound they make is amazing. And the complexity, the intricacies, the way all the stuff interacts is amazing. The fact that they're playing that stuff live, the skill involved in it is amazing. And the grooves, honestly, they're like my new favorite band. And somehow they exploded on the internet a few weeks ago. And suddenly I've seen in loads of guitar channels and stuff, people talking about them as well. And people speculating about who they are because they're this anonymous French-Canadian band. And not only is their album amazing, huge recommendation, but it turns out they got a second album coming out soon as well, which is going to be even better, I'm sure. I am so excited about them.
I think like part of what helped them explode is the nose on the drummer's outfit.
Oh my goodness, amazing!
You stay, you stop your scroll for the drummer's nose, and then you stay on it because the music is excellent.
It swings like a pendulum as he's grooving. It's a beautiful thing.
Rich, anything you want to recommend?
I'll recommend a film. There's been a couple of new 28 days later or 28 years later films of zombie movies. First one came out 3 or 4 months ago. Danny Boyle, quite underwhelming, although interesting.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's okay, but flawed, I would say. But the second one was recently released, and I thought that was much better. More traditional kind of horror with weird elements, but it's got this awesome musical bent to it and a killer soundtrack of some really surprising stuff that's integrated into the story. And it made me laugh, and I was surprised by it. And it's a gnarly horror movie, but with some personality and some great musical choices.
Nice.
My other one was a band called Merle, who are Danish. You might have seen them doing the rounds. Their album's called Dream Crush. Perfectly sums up what they sound like. It got a sweet spot thing for me. They've got they've got some of the kind of black metalish growl stuff going on, but they've also got loads of clean vocals and a ripping band, which is the dreamy, if like black gaze stuff super well, but they're not afraid of like just sinking into a great riff and then some really hooky lead parts. And the way they kind of veer between the kind of super ecstatic, angry stuff and the melodic stuff just works so well. I've listened to that a bunch of times in the last couple of weeks. Really taken me.
I'm interested.
Okay, give it a go.
Excellent. Other than that, obviously, it would be remiss of me not to mention that my new song came out a couple of weeks ago. So please have a listen if you haven't already.
It's a banger.
Excellent. Right. Shall we have a look at a bit of Left Side Brain history?
Almost had me multitasking, shitless, never notwithstanding. Almost had me billboard branding, showboat bastard. Almost had me. Okay, let's have a look back through the LSB archives to see what we're up to on or around this date in history. So we'll start in 2002, first half of February, so a couple of weeks back, but first half of February we did our Small Tour Theory. Do you remember where we played on Small Tour Theory in 2002?
Lancaster.
Yeah, first night was Lancaster, first night of
The
3.
Alex.
Yeah, that was night 1. No.
God knows.
No.
So Friday night we played at the Alex in Lancaster, as you remember rightly, which was a great gig. It was a really good gig, that. Saturday night we went over to Middlesbrough and played at a place called the Arena.
I think that was the
Ah,
crotch-stamping night.
It was the crotch
yes,
stamping
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Yes.
I can tell this one from my perspective if that's useful. It was quite a big sort of nightclubby sort of
It
thing,
was,
wasn't it? And
yeah.
we were up on
Really
quite a
was.
nice stage and stuff, and it was early days. And in all the excitement, we were jumping around on stage, and Richie fell over on his back.
Mid-song.
Yeah, whilst playing, and in a classic me brain fart, I thought it was a great idea to performatively stamp on his nuts. I don't think I really stamped on his nuts, did I? At least it was maybe more of a wrestling kind of nut stamping than a real one.
I remember
But
being quite offended about it for a few years, but I can't remember whether it was the memory or the reality.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I was just trying to make the impression of having done it, but I may well have not executed it as well as I'd liked. Can I apologise now? I mean, it's
It would explain
been a
my
long time.
degenerative testicle problems.
Yeah, that was Friday, Saturday, and then the following Wednesday we did the third gig of the three. Can you remember where that was?
London,
Shall
Kingston.
It was at the Peel in Kingston. Well done.
Peel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that was when there was a poster on the door for a band called Pantalica. I think I'm right on this. Pantalica had played recently at that place.
It could well have been. Yeah, the Peel was the place that had topless darts in the afternoon in the back room and then gigs in the
I love playing darts topless.
Is that right? I thought
Yeah.
that place was in.
there was also a place in High Wycombe that did the same.
That's
yeah.
it.
That was the
That's
Kubrick
it.
tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was another place in High Wycombe that did the same. Yeah.
Can I?
It's that M4 corridor. It's notorious.
So Pantalica.
Yeah.
So are they doing a set of
Yes.
Pantera songs like Metallica by Metallica, and Metallica songs like the
I think-
Pantera?
No, I think
Just
you're
a mix, I think.
overthinking it. Yeah, they're doing some Metallica songs and some Pantera songs. I think that's it.
I think I'm out.
2004, the Surface Tension EP was supposed to be out on the 23rd of February, but actually was ended up putting back a week or two into March. But we'd already booked our gigs for the release, so we did a week of gigs. We were Band of the Week on Total Rock Radio. We did a live interview on Catbird's Phantasmagoria. Do you remember that?
Oh, is that when we went in
We went in.
the studio? Yeah.
It's kind of when we first started getting good.
Yeah.
Surface tension.
It was. We did a week of gigs, which we obviously had to play without the EP having come out. Do you remember any of these? Chicago Rock Cafe in Barnstaple.
I remember that. The stage was basically a big board on some tables that they'd put into the corner of the room. And my overriding memory of that was how long it took us to drive down in the van to that gig.
Oh God, yes.
And the ratio of that effort against what a total waste of time it was playing that show.
Well, also, they didn't have a PA or something like that, so we didn't get on stage till well after midnight. We waited around for 6-7 hours before we got on stage. We all had work the next morning and a 3-hour drive back to Bristol after the gig.
Now, if ever there's a classic left side brain thing, it is that. We still had work in the morning. We were gigging in Newcastle every time.
Yeah. And then we played at the Sanctuary in Birmingham.
Oh, yeah. Is that the multiple floored nightclub like out of a vampire film?
Yeah, there were 2 stages.
Where there was boxing on downstairs.
It was freezing.
It was freezing, and there were 2 stages.
There was a boxing event on the bottom floor.
And then we played Mr. Smith's in Bournemouth, Croft in Bristol, of course, Fez Club in Reading, and we finished the week at the Dublin Castle in Camden.
I remember the Dublin Castle one being good. An interesting venue, historic venue, right?
We played in the corner.
Played in the corner stage. Pretty cool little venue steeped in history.
Yeah, it's like steep in history, but then when you get there, quite impractical for 4 bands to be on the same bill together. But a great one to tick off and remember it being all right.
And as ever, we're
Hmm.
on a bill with 3 completely unsuitable bands for what we sound like.
London gigs.
Right, and finally, we've just had how many years was it? 17 years since Collider came out. 2 days ago, we had
Good
the
grief.
anniversary. So obviously that in itself is a big deal. There's lots of tales to tell about recording that and everything else. But this time, 17 years ago, we were mid Collider tour. We actually had a night off on this day in history, but we'd just done Crewe, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Newcastle, and Derby.
I remember Crew was a good one in the
It was.
box.
It's a place called the Box in Crewe.
Was that the one with the screen in front that kind
No,
of
that
went
was the Limelight in Crewe, which we played out several years before.
up? Okay.
There's something unique about being able to start your set as the curtain rises in front of you.
I remember there being quite a lot of discussion about how we were going to start that gig
Really?
and how we were going to sequence it with the curtain coming up. Quite a lot of
Maybe
thought.
This is important, boys.
Yeah.
I can imagine us going up a fret at a time as the curtain is going up, right?
Also, like coming back to Collider, I'm interested in your views on this. I think that's probably our best one. But then I've got this niggling thing that, like, all the stuff I read about bands, every band thinks the latest one they've done is the best one. So I
Yeah.
just realized I think there's
Yeah.
a band objectivity problem.
I think that enough time has passed that problem has gone for us. And having listened to Collider for the first time in ages recently, I think it's a step above the other two. I really do.
I do too.
We got
But
better every time. Every
Yeah, we
record
did.
was better than the one before. And when we stopped, we arguably, had we continued, would have kept getting better.
Proud of all of them, but proud of that one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We had a lot of fun on that Collider tour. I think it was one of the good ones. In fact, G, you wrote a review of the tour at the end, sort of a bullet pointed tour diary, which I've got in front
I
of
did.
me. I might have to share it on the socials over the coming days so people can read it in full. 'Cause it is quite funny. Okay, now it's time for episode 2's big discussion.
One more time in the firing line. It's hard time, we always right. One more time in the firing line. It's hard time, we always right. We always right.
Today we're having a chat rather than a debate around the subject of memorable gigs. We've each been to many, many concerts over many, many years, a lot of which we're at together. So we thought we'd look back at the ones that really stand out. So let's start by going back to our first ever gig that we went to. So not school bands you might have gone and seen, but the first proper band you ever went to see. For me, it was Little Angels at
Of course it was.
Hanley Victoria Hall back in May 1991. I went with my friend Noah and his brother Josh Eve, who did all our videos. Noah and Josh went to a lot of gigs. They were sort of already veterans of going to gigs by that age. And Noah was getting me into all sorts of new bands. And one of his favourites was Little Angels. So they were playing in Stoke. I got a ticket and wore one of his t-shirts. And off we went. And I remember spending the whole gig pumping my fist. That's my overriding memory of it. The whole gig.
Did they have their big flag?
They came out at the end with the big flag, I think. It was that era, yeah. Actually, before the gig, we went to the local record shop. They were doing a signing there. So we went and I quickly bought the new single and we all queued up and got everything signed. And then everyone hot-footed it over to the venue for the gig. And in fact, my second ever gig was also Little Angels, 18 months later. So my first and second. And actually, I've just bought my ticket for their reunion gig in Bristol in November. So that will be a nice treat. Rich, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll get this right, because there may have been some like small shows I went to. Like, I grew up in the Midlands and it was sort of Stourbridge area, so it was Grebo time. Everything was like Pop Would Eat Itself, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, Credit to the Nation, Chumbawamba, those bands. That was what we were all into at that time. That was the local scene. So I'm not sure whether my first proper gig was either Def Leppard on the Adrenalize tour,
Come on.
supported by Gun and Thunder. I went with my dear friend Ian.
Where was that?
That was at Birmingham NEC.
Oh,
Or it was the Levellers at Wolverhampton Civic Hall, which was pretty mind-blowing as well for the thing that it does. And that would have been with probably my pal Ben Ford, who formed a lot of my music taste at that time, him and his brother Tim. We would have been there in our long sleeve tie-dyed t-shirts and or global hypercolor t-shirt and or pasty hat. Yeah,
I can imagine.
good times.
Wicked.
G, what was yours?
Well, brief mention for the first actual proper gig that I went to, even though it wasn't a real big band. It was very firm memory of seeing a band who Ryan can probably tell me the name of, covers band downstairs in the Coach House in Swansea. And the memory that stuck with me was that they played Everything About You by Ugly Kid Joe, and the guitar playing frontman played the solo note for note from it. And I just remember thinking that was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh, they're called Sour Mash, maybe?
Oh, yes, it was. It was Sour Mash. There you go. Perfect. Lovely. Right. But in terms of first proper gig, it was talk about like ways to start your gigging career with like a lineup that is quite portentous about where everything's going to go for you. The first gig I went to was in St David's Hall in Cardiff, and it was the Almighty with support for the Wild Hearts and Curb Dog.
Look out.
Which is pretty,
Wow.
you know,
That's cool.
It's a good way to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
And absolutely, I remember we got there in time to see Curb Dog, me and my buddy Alan, and we ended up going to the bar while they were playing because they were too heavy for us. That was when they were touring their first album. And I'd got into the Wild Hearts because I got a tape of Earth versus the Wild Hearts because I was going to this gig. So that was my sort of way into the Wild Hearts. So I remember, yeah, they were incredible. And the Almighty, who were at that point in time my absolute favorite band, absolutely destroyed the place. Loved it. It was amazing. And I remember at the end of the show, they finished, and not knowing gig etiquette, we just decided to leave from our seats. We were seated up in the circle. We were decided to leave, and we were on the way out of the building when suddenly they came on and played an encore, which was just something that we hadn't even considered they would do. So we ended up sitting on the stairs and watching them do the encore. But yeah, talk about transformative experiences. I remember like the bass of it just hitting you in the chest, and just wow, amazing, so exciting.
Wicked.
Bro, right?
I've got. I can't remember the chronology of the first one. I've got two in my memory that were definitely my firsts, and yeah, they're quite different 90s prospects. So one was I went to Cardiff to what was Cardiff Arms Park. I was such a massive fan of Extreme, and Extreme were playing in Cardiff Arms Park with supporting Bryan Adams. So my sister and her friends took me along in my teens to go to that show. I can remember not really knowing who Squeeze were, not really caring, but mind blown by the fact the band I'd loved and listened to so much were playing in this giant arena with thousands and thousands of people. Extreme were a professional outfit. I mean, like they were so very, very good at it. But I can also remember Paul Geary, the drummer, doing a drum solo that that must be like 6-7 p.m. It's like they shouldn't be doing that. They're not like that spot on the bill, but just like captivated by that. He plays it pretty simple, pretty straight, but that was unbelievably good. We didn't stay for Bryan Adams. The rest of the crew at the time were just like, yeah, no, not interested. And I was like, yeah, do whatever, fine. And then the other one, which must have only been months apart, was from Swansea, again with my sister and her crew. We travelled up to Bristol to see Ugly Kid Joe on the Ugly As They Want to Be tour.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So
Where'd you see him?
Where was that?
that was in the beer cellar.
Of course it was.
No way.
Yes. So they were supported by Electric Love Hogs, who I then I fell in love with, because that was maybe that was the first one. That was the first indoor heavy band I'd seen. Funded by John Feldman, who turned out to do Goldfinger and produce all the pop punk bands ever. They were great, and then Ugly Kid Joe just absolutely nailed it. Brilliant. But I remember I was like, must have been like a 14, 15-year-old being in the pit. It's like, this is quite full on. Like, this is a bit much. Like, to be at the front of a thing and all these bodies moving around and squishing what felt like a small me.
I doubt it was a small you.
But no. Yeah, but both formative experiences.
Awesome. So we're not going to rank gigs like we did with the songs in episode 1, but let's spend some time talking about the best gigs we've been to, the ones that were memorable for very positive reasons. For me, I think I was trying to think about the reasons gigs sort of stick in my memory and stand out. I mean, the obvious one is you go and see a band, they are brilliant and they blow you away. Usually a band you've not seen before.
and that sticks with you. But also, you go and see a band you love and they play all your favourite songs and you have a lovely time. That also sticks with you for a completely different reason. And actually, they can be quite shabby sometimes, but if they play your favourite songs and you already love them, then you don't care. Also, for me personally, I love that sort of massive shared experience. So I've got a lot of festival gigs in my list because that shared thing in a massive crowd all singing along to the same song or what it might be is a big deal for me. And finally, actually, one of my top picks is an example of this. It's just a single defining moment at some point in the gig that suddenly it absolutely hits you in your sweet spot for some reason and just stays with you. And then suddenly that gig becomes possibly far better in your memory than actually it was because of that one special moment. So I'll quickly run through some sort of honourable mentions, gigs that have, and this has been really difficult actually. I guess we've all been to so many gigs over the years, trying to actually pick them out into individual ones is quite difficult. So one I wanted to mention, and me and Rich went to this together, was Download in 2010, and just the three headliners that weekend. Normally one headliner, two headliners at a festival, fine, but they nailed it on the headliners that year. It was AC/DC, Aerosmith, and Rage.
Wow.
We'd actually seen AC/DC a few months before on the same tour, so perhaps the excitement we would have had for that wasn't quite at the same levels, but they were great. They were AC/DC doing their thing.
Was that Malcolm's last tour?
I think it was actually. It was the Black Ice tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I saw. Yeah.
Sunday night was Rage Against the Machine. We'd seen a couple of times before, but it was the best I'd seen them. They were absolutely on fire that night. But Saturday night was Aerosmith, who I hadn't seen before.
On my list.
Didn't know what to expect. And to be honest, the reason it really stands out is Steven Tyler was the best live vocalist I'd ever seen. He was perfect, and that has really stuck with me. It was a great set, and they got all the big hits, and it was a great experience. But he sang so good, so I wanted to mention that in passing.
Can I
Of course you
addendum
can.
that one?
Yeah.
Because that's in my list. And I remember before that not really wanting to be there, saying to Ollie, "Oh, this is like tired rock and roll bullshit. Leather Trousers was rubbish." And I said, not only is this going to be rubbish, but if they play that song from Armageddon, I am fucking out of here, right? I'm gone. And it was absolutely brilliant from start to finish. And when they played that song, I was in floods of tears.
Amazing.
They started that song by putting footage from the film on the screen.
It was so
which
lame.
they should never have got away with in a million years, and yet it was just it was perfect.
It was so good. It was so good.
Right, I'll quickly run through a few other quick honourable mentions. A couple of examples of seeing a band who I don't really know or didn't know at all, who absolutely blew me away. 60 Foot Dolls in Lancaster in 1996. They were supporting Ash. Didn't know anything about them. They were the main support. And I just remember being completely blown away. They were the best band on the bill. Absolutely amazing. Obviously, I know a bit more about them these days and still listen to a few of their songs. Awesome. I think you were there that night, weren't you, G?
I would have been there, but that might have been before we were hanging out.
It was. Yeah, it's strange. Yeah. Similar experience seeing the Bronx in Bristol Academy in 2007. It's on like the Kerrang tour. I think Biffy were headlining.
When the singer had his leg in a pot.
Oh, it could have been. I just
He'd broken his leg and he came out on crutches and then just like destroyed the whole place. It was amazing.
I just remember drunkenly seeing the guitarist in the bar after they'd played, I think while Biffy were on, and had to go over and have a word, which I very rarely do.
Bronx are they're a perfect rock band.
Another quick mention is a Queen with Paul Rodgers. now, bear with me, because
Was I there for that one as well?
Well, I went to see him 3 times, so I managed to get tickets for this fan club only opening at Brixton Academy. So I dragged Rich to that, which massive fan of Queen. To see Brian May and Roger Taylor playing those songs close up was just brilliant for me. Not so much for Rich, but I enjoyed it. And then you came with me, G, to Cardiff Arena to see them. And then finally I went to see them in Hyde Park at the end of the whole thing. And it was just that combination of those songs again, Hyde Park particularly, 70,000 people singing along to, and doing the Radio Gaga hands and all that, which is something, obviously it's not the same, but it's the whole shared experience thing. So quick mention of that in passing. Another quick mention, a band who are always amazing whenever I see them, is The Darkness. First time I ever saw them, I think you may have all been with me. They opened the Pyramid stage
at Glastonbury in
That was wicked.
2003,
That's
before
good.
Permission to Land came out. It was a few weeks before the debut album came out, and they came on at 10 o'clock in the morning and absolutely owned it. Absolutely awesome. I'm almost done. I went to Milton Keynes Bowl in '93 to see Metallica, and at the time, being a teenager, me and my mate Dylan got the coach down from Stoke. Massive Metallica fans. He'd been there the week before to see Guns N' Roses, so he knew where the off license was. So he went and got a 4-pack of Special Brew,
Oh,
or
okay.
Tenant Super. It was Tenant Super.
Still.
Got through about half a can of it before we had to sell it for half of what we paid for it. But again, just a great experience. That was when Megadeth supported them for the first time, and the Almighty were also on that day. Final mention. I just wanted to mention, see if my memory is right of this. Silver Ginger 5 at the Fleece in, I think, 2001.
Unbelievably loud.
Very loud, and also he set fire. He had a BC Rich he set fire to at the end of each gig, and it set off the sprinklers or something and killed the power, and it took them 5 minutes to get everything working again, I think. Anyway, so they're just a few passing mentions of stuff that stuck in my memory.
Wow. Wicked.
Yeah, Ryan, you got any you want to mention?
Yeah, I got some some mentions that didn't make my top list. I love going to gigs. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. And like you all, I think I mentioned earlier, I've realized the more and more important thing for me is the shared thing with not just the people I've gone with, but I'm in the room with all my people for this thing. And yeah, that's become a more and more powerful thing for me. So when I was thinking about gigs, there were some very quick ones for my best ones ever. And then I think there are a couple in my mentions that have become more important because of what they mean now, because of what's happened since or whatever. And there's two actually from the first festival I went to, when you're super impressionable and you can't believe that you're witnessing the thing that's happening. So, in no particular order, first one on my honourable mentions list is Sleep. So, me and G went to see Sleep at SWX in Bristol. We've both listened to them for years, and I've never been a High on Fire guy that Mark Pike's been in. I've never been an Om guy, really. What's the bassist called, G?
Al Cisneros.
Yeah. So I was just like, are they actually going to be that good? And they were unbelievably good. They were so tight, but without seemingly acknowledging each other. There were three people creating this unbelievable sound, breathing, contracting the pace and the groove, but just seemingly telepathically. They were so good.
Immense show. I'm only going to dive in here because that's on my list as well of
Yes.
my honourable mentions. That we went down there with. It was one of those things where it's a band you just never expect that you will ever see. They're just a distant thing that happened a long time ago in America, and they're so sort of arcane and old in the sort of lore of music. The fact that they were playing in town was mad. So we just went down just because why wouldn't you when Sleep are playing in town, to get in there, and it'd be in is it Electric or whatever it's called in there, SWX was at the time. It's surprisingly an enormous room. There might have been like 1,000 people in there to see Sleep. It was like massive, which again makes you think like, oh, hang on, this all seems extra wrong. They were just so good. We couldn't get over afterwards how good they were. It was amazing.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And like I said, the fact that they literally stood, the two of them on the front of the stage, just stood there facing forwards and did not interact at all. Didn't even turn around to the drummer.
No.
And they were playing in unison. So incredibly tight. This amazingly intricate stuff, just as if they were on their own. It was so good, so funny, an amazing show. Amazing.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'm going to shout out the Hives. I saw them as opening band in the Fleece.
Yeah.
The Yo-Yos were headlining, Group Dog Drill was supporting. The opening band was the Hives. I'd never heard of them. They came down through the bar in their matching outfits and they detonated. From day one, they were the finished article. They were absolutely wicked. I saw Rollins Band in Reading 1994. I loved the album Wait so much. I can't believe now that I got to see that. You feel like the bands you're going to see it there in those times are going to last forever. They were so good. Every musician was so good. Rollins, barefoot, just in his shorts, just audience palm of hand, amazing. I'm going to shout out Spanish love songs, who I've fallen deeply in love with in recent years, and I got to go and see them in the Fleece. Went down on my own, and they just played all the songs I wanted to, and it was a super emotional affair. Brilliant. I was going to mention Frank Turner. I loved Million Dead so much, and I was on like the distribution list for him, like sending out the CDs of his early solo songs and stuff. And I wanted to see Frank Turner playing on his own in the Louisiana. And so the treat of seeing like the guy I'd kind of loved in Million Dead playing not just those songs I'd heard on the CDs he'd sent me through the post, but playing like solo acoustic Million Dead songs. I think he did a cover of Dancing Queen. It was like such a treat in that small room. And like the Hives, I think means more now for where those acts now, and what a treat it was to have been there.
Nice.
Quality.
G?
Okay, so looking back through gigs, I mean, it just makes you think, like, I've seen a lot of gigs, and it is hard to imagine a bad one. They're all good in different ways. And maybe I couldn't really think of like shining examples of specifically amazing ones, because everything is just generally a mixture of goodness, right? So a lot of the stuff that stood out for me is stuff that was a unique experience in some way. Something about what happened or how it came together was just memorable, right? So I've got 2 gigs where they're the only 2 shows I've ever seen where I didn't know the band, and I got into the band because they were just so incredible live. I left the venue as a new fan of that band, and that was Clutch when we saw them at TJ's.
Oh, wow, what show! Forgot about that.
And that was just like, we just didn't know that much about them. We went down there because the boys in Throat were supporting on that tour, so they invited us over to come in and say hi. And Clutch were just like, they were just incredible. Just I'd never, I don't know, well, it's hard to describe how amazing Clutch are, but this was back when I think they were at their absolute peak of bouncy, squishy grooviness.
Pure rock, pure retool, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I just, like seeing this band that you've not really seen visually before, and seeing this crazy bearded fella who comes out looking like someone's dad and just has the whole audience in the palm of his hand, and they're all shouting all the lyrics back, and it's just like, oh, it was amazing. So yeah, that one. The other time would have been, we went to see Monster Magnet in, I'm going to say maybe the Astoria in London, and the support act was Danko Jones, who I had never heard of, and absolutely took my head off. I mean, those of you who have seen him live, he's an absolute force of nature, just non-stop trash talking, consummate professional, and the band are just an absolutely lethal 3-piece, and they just absolutely destroyed the place. It was amazing, and I've been a fan for life ever since, through thick and thin. Arguably a lot more thin than thick, but the thick has been thick enough to
I think that's
to keep me going. Yeah, so other honorable mentions in there. A really interesting experience seeing the Von Hertzen brothers for the first time. I loved the Von Hertzen brothers, and I started listening to their album Stars Aligned because Dom Lawson on Twitter posted like a single tweet about a review of their album, which just said something like, "What a sound." And that was enough for me to be interested to listen to it, and it just blew me away. I adore that band, and I was just like, I was the only Von Hertzen brothers fan I knew in Britain as far as I was concerned, and they played in town down in the Fleece, and I went down on my own, and was just, it's that lovely experience, which is extremely rare, that you could be that into a band. I was super into loads of their records by that point, and you go in to see them, and you've got all sorts of opinions about what you think their best songs are, what your favorite songs are, and what you wish they're going to play, but you've no idea what they think their best songs are, or what they think of the songs that you want them to play. And just that whole experience, I just loved seeing them, and also just seeing what they thought they should be doing live, which was excellent, and they played loads of stuff I loved. Yeah, it was extremely moving. I love that band so much, it makes me want to cry. I did have Sleep down on my list, of course. Also a rare event, when the one time in my life I got to see Def Leppard, lifelong Def Leppard fan, specifically because Hysteria was the first record, a rock record, that I ever got into when I was 11 years old, and Daniel Herbert made a tape of it in junior school. So I finally got to see Def Leppard many years later, after their arguable prime in the 2000s, I suppose, when I was living in the centre of Bristol, off of a street called Park Street, and I got to see this world famous huge deal band for me, but me and my wife walked for 5 minutes from our doorstep down to the venue to see Def Leppard, which was just a completely mind-blowing concept to me. We smuggled a load of white wine in, and I don't remember much about the actual show as a result. But amazing experience. Other than that, one more honorable mention. Just again, a lovely thing, like actually almost co-located with that Def Leppard story, I suppose. Just seeing great bands that you wouldn't expect to be seeing in certain places. I saw a band called the Night Marchers, who another one of John Reese's bands of Rocket for the Crypt fame. Night Marchers, a fantastic band, and I love them dearly. And I got to see them in another venue off of Park Street in town, probably around about the same time. I'm going to say it was maybe the Elbow Room, or there's a place on Park Street that I mix up with the Elbow Room.
I think it was the Cooler.
The Cooler.
Yeah, it was a new venue at the time. I don't know if it's still there.
But we all there for that.
We all went, yeah.
There you go. Just a lovely thing to have just, again, walked around the corner and just seen Night Marchers. Insane.
Rich, do you want to talk us through a few of yours?
Yeah, sure. This is kind of impossible for all the reasons that we talked about. There's so many that I've forgotten. Most of them involve some degree of drinking. I can't rank them. I can't remember them. The ones that tend to stick with me are like you guys have said, the formative ones where you have your brain stretched a little bit, or the surprising ones where you get something just unique, I suppose, that cuts through. It's not really the ones where you go, oh my God, that was just an amazing band that really stick with me. It's the unique ones. These aren't really a rank of quality. It's just memorable ones that stick in my head. So I don't know. We've talked about the Aerosmith one. I remember also, Ollie, that Pearl Jam show we saw. Was it 2006? Where you got was it fan club tickets or something?
It was. I managed to do it again.
A couple of thousand people.
We went to see them at the Astoria. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That was just incredible to see that band up close. But I'm not really in honourable mentions. I'm just sort of free forming here. But the one that really broke my brain, or it was actually two bands in succession. So it's my first festival, Reading '93. I think this tells you what the era was like. I think the Friday night headliner was Susie and the Banshees or something. But the Saturday night was Rage Against the Machine's either first UK show, but then followed by Perry Farrell's band, Porno for Paros. So Rage Against the Machine were just, I've never seen Field just leaping, like going crazy for Rage when they first started. Probably played every song off that first album.
They were so hot when that first album came out in the UK, certainly, was it? Like, just enormous. I remember seeing, on the BBC's Glasgow that year, I think they played at least some of the Rage set on there. And yeah, it was like, when you see a band playing at the time, that's the Rage Against the Machine who did their first album on stage doing it. And yeah, they were amazing. And again, the field was just, you could see just going.
But it was scary as well. It was like my first experience of because you just instantly go, oh, I I'm 100 yards away from the stage. This is all very civilized, isn't it? And then suddenly everything goes completely crazy, right? In front of you, behind you, around you, everything's going mental. But after that, and we were all a bit worse for wear, they had Porno for Paros. So Perry Farrell's band from following Jane's Addiction. And he was incredibly worse for wear in a very odd state, and was just like the shamanic. It was just this music that just kept churning, and he would just be throwing out insults at the crowd, just screaming at us. It was kind of through that cycle of funny, troubling, boring, and then kind of messianic, if that is the word, of just going, oh my God, this guy is speaking the truth.
I'm just looking at the lineup for that day, Richie. You missed Tool as the opening act on that Friday.
I didn't miss it. It was in broad daylight. I've got very, very strong memories of that show playing. Is it Undertow, first album?
Yeah, would have been.
Yeah, I remember that really clearly, actually.
Wow, cool.
It occurred to me a couple of minutes ago, none of us mentioned Tool, and we all went to see them at Cardiff Arena, didn't we? Back in 2006.
That was great.
And I remember that laser show that they had was
exceptional.
Incredible.
There was a moment, wasn't there, when the lasers came on, when it was like, oh, okay, no, this is amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, Rich.
No, I'll say a few more, and that's probably it for me. I'll let you guys talk about your really memorable ones. I mean, I think how big a band Radiohead is for me. Seeing them 97, OK Computer Tour was just kind of gobsmacking, really. Real whipping your brain out moment. And probably, you look back at that gig now, just video recordings of it, it's so primitive. It's just like a few lights, and kind of some video screens, and them just playing those first three albums. That was incredible. I remember Queens of the Stone Age at Glasgow 2003 with Grohl.
2002.
2002. Okay. And then a couple of just last oddities from me. So I saw Genesis on their last tour. Well, Phil Collins,
Heartbreaking,
his last tour.
surely.
Yeah, it was brilliant, but it was devastating because Phil could hold it together, and sometimes couldn't, but the whole crowd was kind of holding him there and absolutely loving him, and it was beautiful. And just for sheer fun, last one. Again, I can't say this is the best gig I've ever been to, but it was memorable. I saw Phoenix on their last tour. Love Phoenix. I know a number of us
Oh,
do.
nice.
And they were completely flawless and brilliant in the way that they always are. And I got to hug the singer, Thomas, at the end.
Yay.
There's so many, and
Yeah.
so many of them with you guys. They're all good, as G said. They're all great.
All right. Well, if I'll quickly go through if I had to say what are your top three, try and pick three out that I didn't mention earlier. These are the ones. So Therapy. First time I saw Therapy was at Keele University in December 1993. Before Trouble Gum came out, Opal Mantra was in the charts at the time. So I'd seen them do that on Top of the Pop, and I knew Scream Major because that had already been out for a while. And at the time, we were going to see lots of gigs at Keele University. It was the Students' Union. So they had all the touring bands. I can't remember, it must have been 10 plus times. We saw Blurred on the Modern Life is Rubbish tour, TerrorVision, Censor, all these bands. But Therapy were the ones that, again, only knew a couple of songs, and they absolutely blew me away. Became a massive fan, as we all were, of Therapy. Interestingly, didn't see them again until the Suicide Pact tour, when we all took that road trip to the Astoria to see them.
So you saw them with Fife Ewing?
Yes, yeah.
I don't think I ever saw them with Fife.
I saw them in Reading '94 with Fife.
I would love to have seen them with Fife.
Such a good band, yeah.
I mean, we've seen them so many times over the years, haven't we? And I would say, in fairness, maybe the best time I've seen Therapy was the last time, which was either might have been the second last time they came to Bristol. We saw them in the Fleece, didn't we?
We saw them in the Fleece. They were great that night,
and they were just on fire. They were just so good. So good. Fair play to them.
So that's one of my top three. Another one is Pearl Jam. As mentioned before, Pearl Jam are one of my all-time favourites. I saw them by myself at Reading 2006. Me and our friend Nikhil just got day tickets, but he went off to see someone else. I was there, really. Pearl Jam were headlining. I was there just to see them. I got myself right down to the front, and it was an absolute joy again. And that shared experience, my favourite band in a massive crowd, all singing along. Lovely. And then my final one is Paul McCartney at Glastonbury in 2004. Yes, it was one of the great shared experiences. Hey Jude, everyone singing along, all those famous songs. But the moment for me was when Live and Let Die, he'd started the introduction, it kicked in, and as it kicked in, these massive fireworks went off behind the stage. And I love that song anyway. It was one of the main songs I wanted to see that night. And it just kicked in, and yes, we'd had a few drinks, and, we're all feeling a bit emotional, but it was just one of the perfect gig moments for me.
You know what? I was there with you.
Yeah.
And Beatles are great, Paul McCartney's great. I think by the time that happened, he'd played so many hits, I'd forgotten that was one of the ones he could do. So when he embarked on it, it's like, oh, you've got this as well. Oh, glorious.
All right, they're my top ones, right?
You know what? While we've been talking, my three has become a four, I'm afraid. So I'll try and rattle through them. My first one is Rocket from the Crypt. I saw them headline the second stage at Reading in 1996. Scream Dracula Scream Tour. They were absolutely ripping. But I don't know to this day whether it was a planned thing or not. There was a power cut mid-set. And it made for the most entertaining audience in palm of the hand thing. It looked, let's pretend it was a real power cut. It could be that Rocket from the Crypt didn't have enough songs to fill an hour and a half at that time, but it felt like a real power cut to me. And the band didn't know what to do. What they ended up doing was people were throwing shoes on stage, and the band taking it in turns to down these beers and stuff. And it just, throughout the whole thing, Speedo was just a force of nature. He seemed engaging at times, dangerous at times, like the most rock and roll superstar at times. It was just the most captivating, thrilling show I'd ever seen in my life at that time, and it stuck with me forever. Just a thrilling entertainer. Just amazing. Next up, went to see Dillinger Escape Plan in the Academy in Bristol, and it was a proper jaw to the floor experience. Before they started, I was there with Barry of Oxygen Thief and Nine Cannon Frame, and I wondered why their cabs didn't have any heads on. I was like, oh, that's strange. What's making the noise through those? And then from the minute they started to the minute they finished, they were just running at and leaping off the cabs, off the kit, off whatever there was on stage, and yet playing note perfectly throughout. It was, I think, must have been Ironworks tour. So it was full of hits, but they were just an astonishing, dangerous prospect. It was amazing. I've never seen a band go as hard at it as Dillinger Escape Plan. Unbelievable.
They're the most physically aggressive band I've ever seen. I cannot understand how they go so hard at it and play so well something so complicated. It was baffling.
Yeah, astonishing. Brilliant. Next up, bit of context on this one. This one's Architect at Alexandra Palace. So my two favorite Architect albums, one's written by the guitarist while he knows he was dying. The next one is written by the band after he's died and processing the fact that he's died. So this is the tour of Holy Hell, where they didn't know if they could be a band or not. Turns out they can still write music, written by the dead guitarist's twin brother, who's the drummer. So it's got all this depth of feeling about it. And I don't think I've been to a gig which felt to me like such a spiritual experience. I love Architects so much, but there with that many people singing these songs about death, love, and grief, and everyone bellowing along to them together was just an unbelievable experience. Just so, so good. And my final one, elevated from honourable mention to, fourth top pick. It was last year. I went to see Self-Esteem at the Beacon in Bristol. I love Self-Esteem. And it elevated into my best because I don't think I've wept at a gig as much as I did at this. I find her honesty and her team approach to the gospel harmonies so affecting. It's amazing. The music is simple, but her lyrics and her gang of ladies and their harmonies are just so affecting. It was wonderful. I left the gig thinking, can I go again tomorrow? It was just so good.
We were in Manchester, didn't we? Right before 1975.
We did. We saw in Manchester. I wept then too. I love Self-Esteem, and I will be at her next gig at the very next opportunity.
Bro. G?
Right. Okay. So I've got three. First up, in terms of sort of transformative experiences in my life story, on my 18th birthday, I travelled again with my buddy Alan, actually, from Swansea all the way to the nearest place to us where we could go and see the Wild Hearts. They were definitely playing Earth versus the Wild Hearts and maybe some PHUQ. I don't know. It was round about then. We travelled to Bristol and wandered through this strange city to the beer cellar, queued up outside, saw the band as we were queuing, walking past, all really exciting. The show itself, the support act was a band we'd never heard of before called Baby Chaos, who would prove to end up being one of my huge favourites and very instrumental in influencing me, I think. Same as the Wild Hearts over the years, but that would have been when they were touring their first album, and it was one of the very first big gigs I'd ever been to. And we were on the front barrier for Baby Chaos, and I remember them being so loud. It was in the days before I was wearing any earplugs to shows, and the Wild Hearts were so loud. I can remember thinking that they sounded like they were out of tune, but I don't think they were. I think they were just so loud that you couldn't even hear a note in what they were doing. And they were amazing. And it was, in terms of the experience, it was the first time I'd been in a show with like the massive crowd and the mosh pit and all of that. And it was everything you'd hope it to be. And I just remember walking out of that show, the two of us talking to each other, and neither of us could hear what each other was saying because just the ringing was just so loud. Yeah, just fantastic. And little did I know that would be the city that I would spend so much of my life living in years to come. So I like that memory. Next up, in terms of unique experiences, just a weird night in my life, right? A weird and delightful night. Not that many years ago, one evening, I was at home. I got a call off of Dave Brent, who is a good friend of mine who puts on loads of shows. And because he is such a lovely man, he's the kind of person who will call you out of the blue and just say, what are you doing at the moment? Nothing. Do you want a ticket to come down and see the Melvins tonight? Melvins were playing in the Croft, and it was probably like tea time when I got the call. And I just So like, oh, I'm going to go out to a gig now. Went down on my own, got a ticket, went in. Croft is not a big venue, and there was probably like at the very most 100 people in there, if that. And there I was, just like
But
a
not
bit
sold out.
bewildered. No.
Just that's so bizarre.
It was well. So they've got a thing whereby there's a fella from Bristol who is their sort of tour manager in the UK. So whenever they come to the UK, they base themselves in Bristol. So there ends up being weird little shows, and they always play Bristol when they come over. So it was like a half-empty Croft, and I was just standing there quite bewildered, waiting for it all to happen. And I got tapped on the shoulder. I turned around and I couldn't see anything, and I looked down. And as far as I could tell, dressed in some kind of like a leather cassock or something, it appeared to be Miriam Margolyes asking me to get out of the way so that she could get up on stage. But it turned out it was Buzzo from the Melvins, who was like an absolute gigantic hero of mine. And just to be tapped on the shoulder, be like, oh, what? Oh, okay. And then the set that they played was it was when they were touring with two drummers. A Big Business was the support act, and they were incredible. Two-piece. Probably the first time I saw a proper two-piece doing that business, which probably in some way ended up finding its way into Super Goliath years later. But the Melvins they were playing with two drummers. So the Big Business drummer, Cody, what's his name, was drumming with Dale Grover. And it was just like seeing a band with two drummers as heavy as that and as groovy and amazing. It was just talk about just like your ears being blown back. It was an amazing experience that I had not expected to happen as of like an hour and a half before it did. It was so weird. I love that show. And my last one is back to formative festival experiences, Phoenix Festival, that we went to twice, I think, out of the 3 times it happened. And one of those times we saw Faith No More headlining, and they headlined the main stage. And it was just after Jim Martin had gone. And it was when they had Dean Mentor, their roadie, filling in on guitar. And they would have been, well, they opened the set with Ricochet off of King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime. So it would have been King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime tour, I guess. And that's like seeing the gods, playing an enormous show, such a formative time. It was amazing. They played fantastic. I remember the sort of centerpiece of the set being they played Caffeine, and there's a little drawn out bit in the middle on the record where there's that one bass line, boom, 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 and it just does that for a while. They played that bit, and when it got to that riff, the stage, the lighting just went blue. Everyone froze on the spot. And the bass player just kept playing that riff, and they Stuart lead us, and they played that riff solidly for what must have been 5 minutes, if not longer. And the crowd we all went through these waves of like, oh wow, they're really going for this. Wow, fair play. And like, God, this is taking a while, isn't it? People starting to get a bit bored, and then it moves eventually into that kind of, oh, this is absolutely amazing. And then you go into bored again after that, and then eventually, he goes, relax, it's just a phase. You'll grow out of it. And and then the place just detonates. It was fantastic. So yeah, brilliant.
Amazing.
I also remember from that show, and shame on me for it, but that day, I think I was right down the front for that Faith No More show. That meant getting right on the front for multiple bands beforehand. And I think I was just like, oh, just got to get through this, what they called Public Enemy show.
Bloody Public Enemy, yeah.
Public Enemy, who are in the way of me seeing Faith No More. And then I can enjoy the rest of my night. But now Ryan would be like, yeah.
Should have paid a bit more attention, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Sorry, another one I should mention. After all this, I've talked about all these shows, and I've not mentioned the time I got to go and see the Spice Girls, and they all signed my T-shirt. But I'll say no more than that.
Cool. Good note to end it on. Okay, let's wrap things up.
We'll sing sayonara. We'll sing sayonara.
So, what have we got coming up? I think first things first, we should mention that tomorrow is Rich's birthday, and not insignificant one. So we're all getting together actually this coming weekend. We're heading to the Midlands for a party. So happy birthday for tomorrow, Richie.
Thanks, chaps.
Rye, what have you got coming up?
Next Pretend Friends gig is 21st of March. We're playing the Ill Repute in Bristol.
Brill. Everyone should go.
For anyone that knows it, Ill Repute is a wicked boozer.
It is.
Is that the one in
Old Market.
Oh, that one. Yeah, great.
Yes, that
God.
should be a very fun night.
That's like a guaranteed party in there, isn't it?
Exactly.
G, you got anything coming up?
Nothing really exciting, to be honest, apart from just more rehearsals with my new band. Well, I say my new band, the band I've joined.
Nice. Rich?
That's it. It's the birthday thing. But more importantly, your single was out recently, wasn't it? Or
It was,
we
yeah.
should play that as an exit.
Yeah,
Definitely.
stick it on. And
good folks.
how's it going with the vote? Because there was a vote on on Prog?
Yep, Prog Magazine very kindly put it up as one of their tracks of the week. Unfortunately, we were up against a behemoth in a guy called Neil Morse. You heard of Neil Morse? I looked him
He
up.
sounds rubbish.
I'm not into my prog, but I looked him up, and he sold over 250,000 albums in his career so far. It's been around since the mid-90s, so he's running away with it. But I'm currently sneaked back into second place, so
Come on.
that's what I'm aiming for. So we'll see.
Don't give
how
up.
it all wraps up. So yeah, the intention going forward is we're going to try and do these a bit more often, aren't we? So hopefully, all being well, there'll be an episode 3 in shorter time than this episode 2 took. But let's see how we get on. Please send in any ideas for discussion topics. We've got a fair few, but we're always open to more ideas. All right, yeah, let's play out with a song. My new one. Enjoy.